We are back. Thank you all for for all of you who stuck around after the high fantasy stuff, and we're here now to talk about Dragon Age. You might be asking yourself, you've already talked a lot about Dragon Age. Well, guess what? Now we're talking more Dragon Age, and that's a threat. No, we have plenty
we mean
more.
Yeah.
We have plenty more Dragon Age to talk about. We're actually going to be kind of going deep dive into this. So, for people who are really into Dragon Age, welcome. For people who are new to Dragon Age, spoiler warning. That's really all I could say. The last Dragon Age game and the last really Dragon Age content was years ago. So I hope you're ready. So as I want to do on my Mass Effect podcast, I'm going to start off with just the most arcing question possible with why Dragon Age? What is it that about this series that you actually come back to and wanted to be on this panel? And I'm going to make Eric go first as one of the massively affected former guests.
My God, jerk.
Oh no, Kelsey's next.
Okay.
So Dragon Age, I came into BioWare as a Mass Effect fan, and so Dragon Age was the one where I think I got into Mass Effect 2 and through Mass Effect 2, and I was like, I should see what this other series is about. And I don't know when Dragon Age hooked me, and I'm not sure it ever really hooked me the way that Mass Effect did, where it was just immediately like, oh, okay, this is my thing. I want to do this. Dragon Age was a real slow burn for me, where it was just over time. I was like, oh, Dragon Age 2 was pretty good. Oh, these characters, I think I like these characters. I think I actually care about these characters a lot. I think I dig this. It was very slowly over time until I was like, I think I like Dragon Age.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a lot of it is just about I like the way it tells its story compared to Mass Effect, if that makes sense. I know earlier I was complaining about how it's not so contiguous, and I still think that's an issue, but I like that it feels more like an anthology than about any one specific character. I like that it has so much open space for there to be stories written into it. And yeah, I mean, also it's just cool. There's dragons everywhere and stuff, and there's crazy magic going down, and I think the Grey Wardens are really dark and creepy and neat, and I wish they would do more stuff with how creepy the Darkspawn are. Awakening is some wild stuff. So yeah, Dragon Age. It's a good time. It's out there.
No, for sure. Kelsey.
It's got to be all about the companions. Basically, any game where it's you get to run around with your companions and really get to know them and romance them. That's just something that I really crave in these kind of games. I think I kind of had a similar experience as Eric did with the first game. It was pretty slow. I got stuck in the Fade for 10 hours, that whole level. I'm just ugh, never want to play that again. But I kept going because the characters were just so interesting, and they just had these really well thought out backstories and personalities. And I felt you could really kind of shape the way that they interacted with you from the way that you were talking with them. You could give them gifts, which was wild. That's such a cool mechanic. And I wish that was utilized more just across the board, because it just feels such a personal touch to be able to do something like that. And yeah, it's all about those characters.
No, I mean, learning the likes and dislikes of your companions and stuff like that, and kind of figuring that puzzle out, as it were, it was a really cool touch that needs to be done more, because it's
I remember
fun.
I remember with Sten, I had to really think about what would he like. What can I give him that would get him on my side? I really had to think about that. And it was just gamified in such an interesting way.
And it's baked goods, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean that was really a cool aspect of particularly of Origins and Awakening that kind of stuck around to an extent, but I like those kind of mechanics of things. Definitely makes you feel like you're more connected.
Yeah,
Ray,
for sure.
Why Dragon Age, Ray?
So, and this goes back to when we talked about Mass Effect. So the first Mass Effect didn't quite click with me when it came out. But then I found out that the same studio was doing something high fantasy. And I was like, maybe, why not? And so, I looked into it and I'm like, okay, no, this is dope. Like, you know, the Darkspawn was like a real big thing for me. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, you know, like an ancient evil coming up and you have to like vanquish it and get rid of it. But like to do that, like you have to use the power of that evil to become something to get rid of it. I'm like, oh, that's super dope. And then the companions were also a big thing. But then it was like, and you can romance some people. And I was like, what? Okay, I'm in. And so, I mean, I just kind of fell in love with the idea of getting to know these other characters, because this was like the first game like that I had played that I was cognizant of paying attention to. And so it was like, no, I can get to know these characters and like understand like what they like and what they don't like. So I'm doing the right thing. So, you know, we could hold hands. And so I just really enjoy Magic and Dragons and weird, dark, ancient evils that you have to somehow get rid of or learn about. It's not so evil after all, and they were here for all kinds of. I love it. That's just kind of my stuff, and so it just had my name written all over the title of this game. So.
Good stuff, Liana.
Sorry for my dog chirping in there for a second.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of with you guys. I actually big Mass Effect fan. I wasn't interested in Dragon Age at all. And then our deployment got extended when I was active duty, and it was a really hard week. We had a lot of suicides that week because of it. It was just a really dark time. And I remember Jablonski, he had I think it was his Xbox, and he had Dragon Age Origins, and it was the only game we had in our shop. So that was literally my only choice to play. And I don't know if it was just I resonated with it instantly, or the fact that it just gave me an escape when I needed it the most. But despite all the parts of it I hate, like the Fade part, I resonated with it really completely. But what makes me like, I don't mind replaying games, but there's the reason I have so many Dragon Age playthroughs and so many Mass Effect playthroughs is there are many studios that do character development well. Nobody does character development the way BioWare does. They make every character, whether you like them or not, feel real, and that authenticity feels lasting, and it an impact that lasts way beyond credits. And to me, I'm a huge reader. I love just devouring stories, devouring experiences, and if the experience is fully fleshed out and fully realized, like we see in Dragon Age and Mass Effect, it appeals to me. I want to remember. I want to feel temporarily like I belong somewhere. And when you're playing Dragon Age or when you're playing a BioWare game, you feel like you belong there. And I think that's something that's valuable, and many studios try to replicate and do a good job at trying, but I've never met another studio that has the magic. And I don't know if that's just because I'm a fan, but I feel like I'm really critical, but it's just, they matter. And when you romance them, even the one night stands, they feel like they matter. They feel like, we're not just two ants passing each other by. This is an experience we shared, and we're moving on. And I think that's beautiful, man. Human experience is wild. I love it.
Well, I was gonna say, like, how many? I don't know if it's happened to any of you, but have played a Dragon Age or Mass Effect for that matter. And after you had a play session, you went to your partner, your significant other, another family member is like, oh my God, like Fenris did this thing, or Isabella did this thing, or, you're telling this whole story, to your, the person you're with who's just staring at you like you're out of your damn mind and having no frame of reference, but like you're talking about the character doing something, not I talked to a person in a video game and this was like the lines. Like it actually feels like you had a genuine interaction with this, make-believe person, essentially, and that your actions led to that. Like the amount of times I've done that to my partner is to the point that I'm not allowed to anymore.
My husband, I make him proofread my smutty fan fiction of Dragon Age, and he's like used to it now. Like, yes, I'll read about it. Like, oh, Dorian got flexible.
As someone who proofreads my wife's smutty haiku fan fiction, I actually identify.
Beautiful.
I've been on that side of the partner role, but yeah, I mean, that's
this is what jealousy feels like.
I was just thinking, Ray. I was like, man, that's love right there.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's okay, interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so just to jump in here, like not quite so crazy as the smut, but basically I have told my boyfriend multiple times, like, yo, Fenris is a really good character, and also his romance is really good. So he eventually like looked up the scenes on YouTube because he's like, I got to see about this. Like, who's this Fenris character? And then it was like, okay, yeah, that was actually really well done. Sure, I get it.
It's gonna catch these hands.
Yeah, I'm gonna go fight Fenris.
Oh, I love it. For me, it's kind of like piggybacking a little bit off Eric and Kelsey with like the slow burn aspect. I liked Mass Effect a lot. Got really into Mass Effect right off the bat and just vibed hard with it. And then they announced, or somewhere thereabouts, Dragon Age was announced. And I was like, high fantasy is not super my jam, but it's BioWare, so I'll give it a shot. And I started playing the game and I'm like, I don't like this combat. I don't like this experience. And I kept thinking to myself, over 100 hours, I'm not enjoying the combat. Why am I still playing this damn game? And why did I just start another playthrough and play 70 hours? And then why did I start another playthrough and play another 70 hours? And it literally, I'm a moron. It took me like 3 playthroughs to click in my brain. It's because of the world. Because Thetis is what I love. People identify me a lot as a Mass Effect person. I've had 2 Mass Effect podcasts. It's not surprising, but for me, like Thetis is that world I care about. I don't actually talk about Dragon Age that much publicly because it's so special to me that it's just like I just kind of don't want anyone to, I don't know, harsh my buzz, as it were, necessarily. So I kind of just keep it to myself for the most part. But like the world of Thetis, like the first time that we started hearing about Antiva, I'm like, I want to go there. I started hearing about Orlais, what they did to Ferelden. I'm like, that sucks, but I want to go to Orlais. And then it was like, I want to go to Tevinter, and I want to go to the Free Marches, and I want to go here, and I want to go here. And it's like it just became like this world, and I wanted to know all about the lore and history of this world. And yeah, I love the characters, don't get me wrong. I love the companions. There's a lot, but for me, it's I have both World of Thetis books out there, and I will just read through those once a year. They're literally just like what dictionaries, effectively, world things. But it's just like I'm just reading through them like they're storybooks, because it's for me, world building is so important, and it's Thetis to me, Dragon Age is like ultimate world building. Mass Effect is this great cohesive narrative we've talked about, and Dragon Age is not as cohesive, but as Eric had said earlier, it's kind of an anthology, and that tying into this massive world is like, that's why I come back. Even if the gameplay is not necessarily my favorite thing, it's good enough that I want to know more and keep playing it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Like as you were saying that, I'm like, yeah, I don't think during any of the playthroughs that I have in Mass Effect that I was like dying to go explore any of those planets that we kind of knew about. I was just like, oh, it's there. Like, I just want to talk to like the characters and the people.
The planets
like,
are cool,
I definitely didn't have that desire to explore, like, which is strange because that's something I usually gravitate toward. So
I know a lot of people with Mass Effect, when 3 came around, like, oh, we finally get to go to Thessia, and somebody's like, are you excited? And I'm like, okay. It's another. My response is, it's another Asari planet. Was almost my thought. It's like, it's cool. I think they're beautiful.
That's exactly it. Yep.
It's cool and stuff, but it's a galactic civilization. So the stories are everywhere in that. Where Dragon Age, it feels like all the stuff going on with the crows, that's in Antiva. They only come outside every now and again. All the stuff that's in Kirkwall, that's in Kirkwall.
I think it's like a locational difference too, though. Like. In futuristic, everything looks the same as tech. It's computers.
Yeah. And everyone kind of moves around freely. Yeah, I think you're right.
It's the homogenization of culture once you get so deep down the tech tree and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then Thetis is, you see the culture. Like if I grew up in New Orleans, when I moved from New Orleans to Virginia, it was like a complete culture shock. And that's just within one country. And seeing, I don't know. I'm really interested in learning more about the Mortalitasi, because what we learned in the Tevinter Anthology, I was just like, ooh, we're going there. We need to learn more. I need to know about this and all the ritualization, and just because it's the culture. It's the their own rules, Orlesians, there's constantly that banter with Dorian of Orlesians is like a downplayed version of Tevinter games. It's like, okay, but why? Like, what are they doing differently than yours? Because it's all a bunch of rich, snooty people. But then you do compare the two, and they are wildly different. And that was such a good point. I agree with you, because that's magical. That's why we love to travel, is we want to experience something outside of our normal reality. And when everything looks the same.
Exactly.
And that was a big part of why I loved Inquisition, because you would go places and they were truly different. you know, and plus there
Yeah.
were dragons, of course. But yes, it was like, whoa, okay, no, this place looks very different. I like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Like the architecture is different, the
Mhm.
fashion is different. So it just like they do feel like they're actually like separate places. And again, it just kind of goes back to like the world feels very real. Yeah, I like it. I want to explore more for sure.
Well, for me, it's also a huge part is it's not just I'm curious about visiting the place. For me, it's the same thing in the real world. You know, I grew up in a fairly racist area, fairly bigoted kind of area and stuff like that. And I used to always hear like, you know, horrible things about people who lived in this country or in this state or in this thing. You know, like that was a lot of what I heard growing up. And for me, it was like I very much liked growing up and going to these places and seeing the stereotypes that might have been proven true and the stereotypes that were not, and like the ones that, you know, where they came from, and like learning the cultural, how the cultural discussion and how things changed and how the different perspective, how people in that society view themselves versus outside. And that's something Thetis does a really good job on, because there's stereotypes of people from Orlais and people from here and people from there. And then you go to these places in the game, and, you know, you see the game as part of Orlais, and it's like you heard Liliana talk about it in Origins, and you heard allusions to it in Kirkwall, and then suddenly you're part of it in Inquisition, and it's like, oh, this is actually what this is, and this is what it's like being part of this, and this is what our legions are like. And yeah, there's the French, you know, kind of aspects of it, but it's also based loosely on this culture as well. And like, you know, you start seeing all the like the stuff in universe, and then also what it's based on out universe. And it's like, oh, okay. And like that's what I'm so good with. You know, we keep talking about the Dragon Age 4 stuff, you know, going to Tevinter and stuff like that, and where else we may go. And it's like, oh, I'm just so excited to see this, you know, the enemy that we've known about for 3 games and several comics and stuff like that, and actually get to see them, you know, humanized effectively, and kind of actually seeing like what Tevinter actually looks like. As Liana said, we have, you know, the Tevinter anthology. I've only read half of that book, but that does start to show us a little bit of what Tevinter's like. So
Mage Killer, have you read the new comics?
I need to. I have everything queued up, but I need to read.
Wraiths. He pets a dog. Fenris cuddles a dog and baby talks a dog. If that's not a reason to play it, and his voice actor actually mimicked that song, like voiced out that whole scene, and I was like,
oh really?
We must protect Gideon Imri with our life.
I love it. Let's go to the next one though. Next question here, because it kind of ties into what gameplay a little bit, directly relates to gameplay. So Dragon Age, across effectively the 3.5 games, shifted so damn much in gameplay. I can't really think of a series that really changes as much as Dragon Age. So just looking at it, we have like a CRPG in Origins, Awakening, the expansion, which is almost its own damn game, feels like a much faster paced CRPG. We have the action RPG aspect of 2, and then Inquisition is like this amalgamation of like everything that came before it, essentially, with a very action heavy a lean on it, essentially. So like, what do y'all think, one, of that changes of the changes across the series, and did you vibe with that? And then also the what's your favorite in the series question. So let's go, Ray.
Of course, this is the one that you hit me first.
I literally just random number generator in my brain, and
I think it was the changing of the combat as the series progressed just enough that I was like, okay, no, this is I like this, because it changes enough for me to want to remain in the world, because like the world and the characters were going to keep me there regardless. It was just the one thing that I needed to kind of evolve with the series and the time was the combat, and it did for the most part. With it in Inquisition being my favorite, I'll be honest. Like the combat in Inquisition just felt very high fantasy to me. It just did.
Yeah.
You know, and just how you had to, you know, had to have the certain synergies. It had the elements of the classic RPGs that I like in Inquisition. That really is what kept it. But then it just had a bunch of really odd mechanics, like with, you know, the rifts and all that. I was like, okay, no, I dig this. Like I like this. But it was just, you could also see how things internally were changing. Like from my perspective now in the industry, it's like you can kind of see where things were changing internally as these games went on. And I'm like, yeah, somebody didn't like that, and so they ended up doing this instead. It's like, well, they couldn't do what they had with that, so they did this to kind of compromise. And I was like, oh man, it's just when when I started looking at it from that perspective, I'm like, oh boy, video games are hard.
I'm just watching Liana sit here with all of her knowledge of the behind the scenes in Dragon Age and what she has talked about or can't talk about, and her face just morphing with everything Ray's saying.
I was just like, my goodness. But it's like, as a fan, I'm a fan. I enjoyed all of it. Like, and I will continue to enjoy whatever else we get.
Yeah.
Please soon tell me something. But anyway,
take your time.
Take your time. But just be like, Ray, hey, it's gonna happen. And I'll
More
be like,
concept art.
thank you.
Look,
yeah, I probably would say that right now, as it stands, Inquisition is probably currently my favorite because of DLC.
Like the new creative director who took over for Dragon Age, the first thing I ever said to him, he dropped that Grey Warden Dragon Age 4 art.
Yep.
And my first thing I ever said to this man, never met him before in my life, I was like, what the fuck? It's fucking Grey Wardens? Oh, sorry.
I remember.
All cap. Sorry to the 5 pieces.
Nice to meet you, but yeah.
He liked it, and then I didn't get the response till like 30 minutes later of him just being like, I don't know how to respond to this.
He called somebody over. What should I say to this?
Yeah.
So she works for like this big publication. And she just yelled at me. What do
I do?
Like, what's the appropriate response? PR is coming in. It's just Liana. You're good.
Yeah.
when they were doing the Dragon Age 4 first reveal at the Video Game Awards, what was that? 2 years ago?
Yeah, okay,
The only email I got from PR, literally an hour before, was the subject line was "Holy shit," and then the body was just like, "Hey, Bish, watch it this time, and then call me later." And then as soon as I called that person, I was just screaming. It was like, yeah, like they know, like you don't have to be professional with me. Let's scream.
Oh my goodness, I love
Liana,
that.
I need to get in more like chats with you when it comes to these things because I need this energy in my life.
Yeah, definitely.
But okay, let's actually, Liana, let's go with you for this question. The changing aspect of like the different gameplay elements and what's your favorite.
Oh man, I'm glad you said that because I got so sidetracked. I forgot what the question was.
I think just about everyone in this chat has ADHD brains, so I will reiterate stuff as we go.
Mechanically speaking, definitely Dragon Age Inquisition. I cannot stand Origins combat or mechanics in general. The pace, it suffers the same thing that the first Mass Effect did. It just, there's a really bad pacing issue. And once it hits its stride, it's a completely different game and it's great. But getting there is a little rough. And trying to do like Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition works so much better with mouse and keyboard, just mechanically. And nothing works with Origins. Like, no matter what you do, it's gonna just kind of suck.
As a person who's played Origins exclusively with a 360 controller, yeah,
it's so
it's
like
a bold choice.
It's rough, man.
It
but
works,
I think
how?
I think
not well.
Story-wise, my favorite's Dragon Age 2. I love Dragon Age Inquisition. I love how Trespasser tied up loose ends between all 3 games. I thought I did it really well.
Yep.
But I'm also, as I get older, I have less time and less patience. And sometimes the shorter is the better option for me. Not that I like how short Dragon Age 2 was, but it made the story more of the focus versus Inquisition. Sometimes I just get lost, kind of just like, I forgot what it was called, but it's the desert at night that when you're there, it's usually nighttime.
The wastes.
Yeah. If you do it at nighttime, my favorite thing to do is just to get on a horse and just walk around, like not fight anything, just because you hear like all the sound. It's just beautiful.
It's
and
pretty. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's pretty. I like it.
And Dragon Age 2, it's like, I don't know. I feel even controversial, please don't hate me. Anders was right. And I know, sorry. This is the day my friendships died. Anders was right. And I disagree with a lot of the public. And I know I'm in the wrong for this, so you don't need to tell me I'm wrong. But I felt like his change with Justice was expertly done. And I feel like the actions of Justice and his declination in Act 3 was purposeful to show you that he was no longer Anders. And I liked that because that whole partnership was a very unique case, because you hear it happening in Teventer and the person's always twisted. So why would Anders be different? And yes, I know there was writing differences too, and they changed the voice actor and stuff. But in my head canon, a lot of the personality changes were because he suddenly fused with this black and white character. And gray, we live in gray areas as human beings, and just seeing how each other morphed each other. And I don't know about you guys, but when I travel and I'm staying with somebody for long periods of time, I start adapting their mannerisms. I start adapting their manner of speech. And that's not even inside of my head. Like, how do you deal with that when it's in your, how do you maintain yourself in that situation, especially as Justice go more aggressive? And I love it. I love games that aren't afraid to get dirty and do the dumb move. Do the dumb move. People will forget eventually if it doesn't land. Like, it's fine. But
you got to take bold swings. I agree with you. I thought that was a very, very interesting plot point, and I thought it was pretty clear, honestly, that he was like really losing control of what he thought was his hold on justice. Like, you can see like it really is straining even at the very beginning, and then it just gets worse and worse. It's a good character arc for sure.
No doubt. Kelsey, question about favorite game as well as the shifting changes of the mechanics.
Right. Okay. So I think I have to say Dragon Age Inquisition had the best like combat mechanics. Like, it just felt like it was the most balanced. Like, it was a lot faster paced than the first game, and like, but it was still able to like pull in like the more strategic top down elements, which I really liked. And it didn't feel like I was just like mashing buttons, which is kind of what I ended up doing in Dragon Age 2. So it just felt like it was like fast, but then like you had to be more strategic. And I just felt like, I don't know, all of the abilities just felt really good. Like, it doesn't feel like anything was like overpowered or underpowered. Like, you just kind of had to know what you were doing. And I like that a lot. It's for favorite game, it's gonna be Dragon Age 2. Like, I think it's like the cleanest story. Like, I think because of like all the constraints that were put on them, like I think it was something like a 16-month like production time or something crazy like that.
Yep.
Yeah, which is like no time at all when you're making a game of that size.
That whole sequence tour with Meredith and with Orsino, that was not planned.
Oh, wow.
They were told to pivot direction at the last second, and they were like, shit. Like it was basically just this mad scramble. Like, I talked to a couple of developers that said, though they're proud of what they did, like that was some of the most stressful time in their career.
Oh, I'm
like,
sure.
Was it well, David Gator wasn't, it was
he mentioned that.
It was his thread a few months ago, right?
And Laidlaw came out about it too.
Laidlaw as well,
There were so many of our ideas that we could have taken so many things further, and we weren't given a chance to, and canceled DLC that was scrapped. That was really cool. And then of course, when people, and it's too important for people to remember too, when developers are making threads like this doesn't necessarily mean that was going to happen. For every idea that makes it into a game, there's 1,000 that get left on the cutting room floor. But it is cool to kind of see the possibilities of where their heads were at and what else we could have seen if I mean, luckily it seems like EA has learned since then. I think Battlefront 2 really scared the crap out of them when the investors stepped in, but at that time it was very much totalitarianistic in terms of deadline first, everything else second, from what I've heard. To see that reflected, and it's exactly what you said of just it's game development's weird. It's bizarre.
So I mean, like, just the fact that they were able to pull it off like in such a short amount of time with like all this stress looming over them, like that's masterful. And like, I also think it was like just a smart move in general, just creating like a more insular story and just confining everything to Kirkwall. Because I think like when you make every story like I'm the person who's got to save the world because like shit's going down, like I think it really limits what you can do on a character level and the kind of like reactivity and the choices that's put out there in the world. Because like you don't want to have a game where it's like, well, I mean, like we as players would want to have a game where it's like every choice we make like basically changes the entire world, and like we get to see that change reflected. But that's just not like that's just not viable in game development today. Like maybe if there was like a massive team who's able to pull that off, like that's one thing. But I think because like it was such a tight story and like in a small location, like I think we saw a lot more reactivity in the choices that we did make. And it just felt like it counted a lot more.
Just the
so,
dungeons. I have a headcanon though about those. Okay,
Mhm.
and this is also my headcanon for why Bethany has such huge knockers.
All right, continue.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
We're
Say more.
listening.
People should not invite me on their podcast. I'm just saying. But like my theory is, so this whole game is being told from Barrick's perspective. He's a
Yeah.
storyteller.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
We
how
know
many
where we're
times
going.
have we heard him say,
Mhm.
like, I hate the deep roads, I hate underground, So for somebody that hates something like that, of course things like that would all look the same. Is this what happened? No, we know it was budget cuts, but let me dream, okay?
No, but the headcanon, it's acceptable headcanon. I mean, honestly,
It works.
yeah.
It works.
And he had a huge soft spot for Sunshine, and I feel like his soft spot would be as aesthetically pleasing as possible.
Makes her a bit more buxom.
Mhm.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, but we already know that Varric's an unreliable narrator because there's points
Yeah.
already that are part of the story that he's unreliable. So Dragon Age 2 works really well in that regard.
Mhm.
I want to get through to the next question
Oh,
as well. So Eric, what's your answer? And then I'll go.
Yeah. So like to part one of it with the combat and stuff, I just think like Dragon Age is very reflective of how RPG development has changed over the years.
Yep.
And like I've been thinking a lot about this with stuff like Final Fantasy VII Remake and all that, being like, yeah, a lot of those constraints are gone now, and they can start to do actual action games that do all the stuff that an RPG does. And what an RPG is even has evolved a lot since olden days, and especially since, you know, the days of Dragon Age Origins. So I think Dragon Age adapting with the times makes sense, and trying to mix a little bit of the action into the RPG while still trying to retain some of that sense of like CRPG Dungeons and Dragons like tactical aspect to it. So I think Inquisition was the best combat wise. But Dragon Age 2 is also my favorite because to what Kelsey said, like constraints, but I think the biggest constraint that makes Dragon Age 2 work is that it all takes place in Kirkwall. Well,
Yep.
For the large 99.9% of the game takes place in Kirkwall. Like you get to really experience what that city is, and even just the way the story is constructed, like you enter at the literal bottom of Kirkwall and rise up over the years to the top, and like there's a lot of just good imagery and thematic stuff they get to work with there. They get to really show how a city is formed and how a city treats its citizens, and how even just differences in who lives in a higher plane of existence can control so much about your life. Like I talked about Meryl earlier, and like so much of her life gets dictated by the circumstances that she's born into, and there's so much stuff that they delve into there that it's really difficult to do in any sort of like sweeping broad RPG like Origins or Inquisition. And I actually like Origins a fair bit because it does the thing that I wish BioWare would do again. I mean, Inquisition does this as well, but having character origins and having that sense of like your character has their own individual beginning that helps define who they are outside of being defined by the people around them. I thought that was really cool for Origins, and you end up with this character that feels very yours, even if it's one of several pre-canned intros. It still feels like your intro to the game and not like the same intro everybody else did. But yeah, 2 is just, I've always said that like in creative works, constraint can help sometimes, and it can do good things. And so in this situation, it just resulted in a lot of people having to make the best work they could because they didn't have time to make bad work. So yeah, it's something else. It's also the game that I like, if they go back and do a legendary edition or something, that one needs the Mass Effect 1 treatment. I think Origins probably does fine these days if you just tune up the combat a bit, but I think it's 2 that needs like a lot of love.
Oh yeah. I would definitely agree on that. For me, it's gonna be, I think we all just really give them the same answers. You know, Inquisition's my favorite combat because it's the amalgamation of everything. It's funny for me because I've only beaten Inquisition once. I have made it to Skyhold, I think 5 times, and I've made it to just before Skyhold like 4 times. And I just burn out every time I'm playing the game. Every single time. I love it, but it's like that TikTok meme of there's too many slices for me, where after I've spent 4 hours just talking to companions and I haven't gone anywhere, it's almost too much for me. And my brain won't let me move on to the next part until I finish the conversation. So it's an almost too much thing. But eventually I will get a second playthrough of that done, hopefully before Dragon Age 4. But my favorite is 2. My quick thing, gently adding on to everything everyone else has said on 2. 2 is the self-contained story. It just feels like the most cohesive narrative. Everything I love about Shepard across Mass Effect 1 through 3 is just Hawk in Dragon Age 2. It's literally just that experience. You're seeing them grow as, this effectively a street urchin up to the champion. You're seeing how all of their decisions, and sometimes to an extent the decisions of others, change this city and, all these other aspects. And it's just that self-contained narrative is what I really love. Despite how much I love the world of Thetis and want to see more of it, I feel like having just stuff come to Kirkwall was just great. And I hate that city so damn much and everything associated with it. And there's a reason why, I have 6 playthroughs of Origins. I have 1 playthrough of Inquisition, and I probably have 10 playthroughs of Dragon Age 2. Because also the other games are just too damn long for me. And Dragon Age 2 is just short and sweet, and you can power through that game in many, many ways. And it's a blast.
Yeah. Really quick, I want to talk about the dialogue options in Dragon Age 2.
Sure.
Just because I think that those were that was the strongest of the series too, because like you feel like how reactive the system is. Like if you decide like I'm going to be a smart ass Hawk this whole time, like eventually like the system will pick up on that and just will automatically spit out like a funny line, like when you're going to say hi to a character for the first time. And I thought that was really cool, and that's something that I definitely want to see more of. Because like it's one thing that I'm noticing now as I'm playing through like Mass Effect Legendary Edition right now is like I am playing a very specific Shepard, but then like they'll go up to someone and just be like the generic like, hello, like citizen, like what can I do for you today? And I'm like, it's not my Shep.
I just want my Shepard to walk up to somebody they know and say, sup, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Just like slap them, tell me what I need to know. Let's go.
No, but seriously, I get it. Like is probably one of the best features of Dragon Age 2 is the fact that it learns based on your choices. Are you being more aggressive? Are you being more snarky? Or are you being more good? Are you being more this? And it might be the slightest change, but it could be literally Hawk smirking before saying hi. There's like a kind of response. It could be like more just aggressive. It changes the tone of a thing, and it literally does immerse you into the voiced character so much better. That now there more story games where it learns from you.
If you do the purple Hawk, you get to have Fenris say, Hawk stepped in the poopy. And if you need one reason to play Purple Hawk, let it be that.
That's incredible. Incredible.
I felt like that was so really important to add. Sorry.
No,
that was great. I had forgotten about that. And I'm like, yes.
I don't even think I knew about that. So I appreciate hearing it. All right, next question is what I dubbed in my notes as the Kenneth Shepard question, because Eric's co-host for Normandy FM, Kenneth Shepard, I've been on Normandy FM. He's been on my show, and talking about player agency is something that's come up a lot. Between that, with Mass Effect, we play as Shepard the whole way through. It is our Shepard, it is who we are that you identify. Meanwhile, Dragon Age, we the player have our headcanon. This is how I feel, and relate to Liliana. This is how I feel about Hawk. Kind of like that's how you feel, but it's not how your character is, because the Warden had that relationship, or Hawk had that relationship, or the Inquisitor had that relationship. And I'm wondering, we kind of touched on this in the first section, but how you all feel about agency with Dragon Age, and how you feel about their choice to kind of anthology it, as Eric put it earlier, where you are playing a different person with completely different experiences put up against your own choices and stuff. Like Varric as a companion in 2 different games, but I don't know Varric now that I'm the Inquisitor. So I'm just actually gonna just throw it out there, whoever wants to go first.
I can go first since my podcast is apparently being targeted here.
Just
yeah,
Ken.
like this is something that Ken and I have talked about across a million different games. Even when we talked about The Last of Us and stuff like that, we talked about the difference between like playing a role-playing game where you have choices and playing a game that is essentially like a stage play where you are acting out the things, even if you disagree with what, say, Joel might do in a video game. You are still like performing the action because that is what needs to happen for the thing to move forward. I think with Mass Effect, obviously, it is intended to be very much like you play one character and it carries across games. And I think because of that, it is like a lot of people, especially the first time through, I know I did, like self-insert a little bit and like put a lot of themselves into the game and make choices that they would make and then go back and start doing like more of the role-playing stuff. I found I did the same with Dragon Age, but going back to Dragon Age for Normandy FM, I tried to kind of like craft characters in my mind and be like from the outset say like, this is my character, this is who they're going to be, this is what compels them, this is what doesn't. And I find that this game, maybe more so than Mass Effect, is conducive to that, just because it feels like there's more room for you to define who your character is. There's more ways that can branch. I've talked a lot about how Paragon and Renegade can kind of feel constricting at times when creating a character. And in Dragon Age, you get like a lot more leeway to not necessarily find yourself beholden to those systems in order to progress who your character is. And so I guess in terms of agency and stuff like that, I'll just say that I think Dragon Age allows for a lot of room to like be a character and then make choices as that character. And so honestly, like I have my Shepherd, but then all my Dragon Age characters are more like my OCs than my character, me in a game.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Kelsey.
I forgot the question.
I mean,
wait. No. I have it right here. Sorry, I have it right here. Okay. Well, I guess like I kind of approach it as like, I think like it's pretty clear, like the games are, it's almost like there's some anthology being written by like a historian, like in the far future. So I feel like I'm just being reincarnated as like these different legends throughout the years. So I do try to approach it in a way that I'm like sort of like for Hawk, like I think it made sense for them to be a smartass because like this is such like an insular world, and I'm like, this is probably how they would be, you know, being dropped into like this like shithole of a city and like trying to make their way. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's kind of how I approach it. I wish there was more of a through line, honestly. Like,
yes,
I wish there was a little bit more, I guess, like callbacks to some of the choices that you might have made in previous games. Like, it's like nice, like seeing Hawk like show up at Skyhold and all that good stuff. But I definitely wanted to see just like a little bit more reactivity to some of the events of the previous games for sure.
What if I could romance my Hawk?
I know. Can you,
you
imagine?
Dragon Age.
Try to go talk to my Hawk, and I'm like, oh man, I can't do anything here. Just getting some information.
Look, let's just get a 3-way with the Inquisitor, Hawk, and the Warden, and just get it over.
It's wrong. It would break the universe, but
yes.
That
the
power
is already broken. Do it anyway.
That's the power throuple of the century.
Worth it.
The heroes, the power. Incredible.
That's the don't cross the streams part of Dragon Age.
We're gonna cross something, all right. I'll tell you that.
Ray, the agency question.
So I mean, when it comes to player agency, I feel like the only one that I truly felt like I had that was, it's gonna sound weird, was Dragon Age 2. Hawk was the only one that truly felt like
Hawk is their own character.
Yeah, I was like, Hawk is Hawk, and I was like, this is why I can like see myself in this one. But the Warden and the Inquisitor, I'm kind of like, you're just avatars. Like, I mean, nothing like, I'm like, they're literally just avatars. But like Hawk, I was like, oh no, like you are you. And it's like, but I can see things in you that I can relate to, which I was like, oh, I really I like that. So I grew to care about Hawk. And so there was that moment when Hawk shows up in Inquisition where I'm like, and it was great. So it's like it made me really feel like it's like, no, okay, now we got to do this, because it's like now I have this more significant connection than just Varric, which I was like, this is fine, but it's like, yeah, when that happened, I was like, okay, you know what? Now we really got stuff to do. Like I was like, okay, we're on a campaign, we're making stuff happen, and I was like, oh no, I as the player now have a connection outside of just like experiencing this through this avatar. So yeah, it was cool. I like that.
Yeah, I kind of wish like there was a way to bridge the gap between like the cool like different origin stories, but then like have the, I don't know, the role playing aspect and like the real character feel of Hawk. Yeah, it'd be nice like to have a bit of both worlds, but a little challenging to pull off.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Liana, any additional thoughts yourself on this?
Yeah, I actually really like how all three games tie together. I like that it's not super obvious. You have to hunt for it. Like I didn't realize you can meet grown-up Connor until like my 5th or 6th playthrough in Inquisition. And like Trespasser, I feel like Trespasser is the epitome of how they tied everything together, because they even tied stuff back to Origins. But I feel like Inquisition as a whole did a really good job, because I've had 19 or 20 playthroughs and not a single one of them has been even remotely the same. Like the instances with Morgan are all different. I had one playthrough where Morgan made me read her dirty, naughty letters. And then I had one where she was just a raging B word. And then I had another heartbreaking moment with her and Alistair, and different, playing around with different wardens of Shroud or Alistair or Logain. And I just, and Dragon Age 2 too did a really good job too. Like even the small moments of, reflecting back at what the Amels, and just those little tie-ins were so minute. But if you're following the lore closely, it's like, wow, that was pretty cool. But then it makes you kind of have this subconscious desire to dive deeper into the world to see how many other little nuggets you can find, because that was buried and easy to miss, and I don't want to miss anything else. And that's a very clever tactic to make your player super engaged in what's going on, of this hunt of, okay, this is, not everybody's going to find this, so I need to make sure to find this. And to be able to accomplish that with a small game like 2 was really impressive. And yeah, I actually do that. It's funny because usually when I play these types of games, I always go for a female avatar or a femme-facing avatar, because that's just what I relate to. But for some reason, I always have a draw. My favorite characters in Dragon Age that I've created have all been male. And I don't know why that is, but it plays almost like a completely different game in the best way possible. And to me, my canon Inquisitor is male romance historian, and my Hawk is male sassy, and my Warden is a male L. There's a weird dynamic there that I don't think is rooted in like any kind of sexism or anything. It's just, there's so many parallels between human life that we talked about earlier about the fantasy aspect, but then to have, I don't know, I'm kind of like spiraling into this rabbit hole, but like to have that, and then to be in an experience that I'll never be able to experience. I will never know what it's like to be a man in the real world. And so to be able to try to navigate this in-game universe that has very real consequences and very real reactions to how you carry yourself, it's interesting. There's an added challenge of that, of playing it as the opposite gender, because it's just, people react to you differently in the game. And I think that's really cool.
No, that is definitely. All right. We want to get to the Q&A stuff, but we got 2 more questions. We're going to try to lightning around this. So just give me quick, short answers if any of us are capable of that. So the first question is, who we banging? And that's pretty much who's your, your number one romance. And just for me, it's Dorian and Freddie Prinze Jr. And specifically, I do mean Freddie Prinze Jr., not
tomatoes.
But let's go down to Eric.
Morgan. Like 100% Origins. She was like, hey, we got to do this spell, and my Warden was like already on the bed, like, cool, you like what we gotta do.
Pants are already down, you're ready to go.
Tee-hee, we have to do this thing, like, oh wow, twist my arm some more.
No. Morgan's the best, and I also think she's like one of the best characters in Dragon Age, like the entire series. So love Morgan. Meryl close second, but Morgan very good.
Kelsey.
It's got to be Fenris, my man's. Like it had, I don't know, his romance had like a good amount of angst, which I love in a fictional romance. I mean, like he basically leaves you right after you bone him, it's like, oh, my heart is shattered, but then I'm still going to pursue you in Act 3. It's good. Like it just, that romance takes you places, and you really have to work for it. I like it. It's good.
Fair.
He's a
Liana.
good guy. He's a good guy.
Fenris, close second, and Thorian. That's the only right answer here. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, Ray, bring us a wrong answer.
Well,
or a right
I'm
answer.
gonna make the worst wrong answer, so I'm gonna actually say
Yennefer and
Cassandra.
Triss. Oh, there you go.
That's basically the two of them in one
Yeah.
person. Yes. So yeah, Cassandra.
Cassandra, good.
Would Josephine be in the second?
Oh, yes.
Joseph-
I really
Just
like
like her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josephine grew on me. I get it. I feel it.
Mhm.
All right. Second lightning round, if we could do it, question is what is your dream Dragon Age experience, game, property, whatever? As short answers as we are capable of doing. And big shocker, mine is a dating sim. Because that's just where I want actually that, or I would really like to do something diplomacy heavy, like a Crusader Kings-esque kind of thing.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
I'd vibe hard off that. So opposite direction, Ray.
I think I would want an Arkham style Dragon Age.
Oh
I
God.
think
Mm.
where you're breaking into keeps and like infiltrating their ranks and weakening them for the war. Oh man, that would have been a
That
lot of
sounds
fun.
cool.
That
Yeah,
actually
I'd
sounds
do
really
that.
cool.
Mhm.
Liana.
Dating sim. Actually, didn't Tumblr like have a Dragon Age 2 dating sim that's kind of like Dream Daddy a long time ago?
Yeah, that sounds
Oh.
Maybe,
familiar.
yeah.
Oh.
Give me a Dream Daddy humor. Give the Dream Daddy writers on a Dragon Age dating sim and take all of my money.
I vibe. Sorry, I completely just like my brain was like, oh. Kelsey.
I think I'm also kind of leaning toward like the Crusader Kings, like court intrigue, political maneuvering, just like shitty,
It
like
would fit
behind the
it really
scenes
well.
behavior.
Yeah.
Love it. It would fit
Mhm.
very, very well. I'm like Suzerain is another one that I think would fit very well. A little bit more like story driven and written, but I think that would be great. And also a game in which we could romance Varric. He'll just have to break up with his girl first, I guess. I don't know who she is.
you read the
I don't care about
comic?
that. No,
So we could be.
no,
so
I
we
still
could
want
be
to.
the
I still want
homewrecker?
to.
It's
Yeah,
so I will
yeah.
mail it to you. I have the big
Oh, you do?
hardcover because like it made me want to murder the bitch. Like when we met her in Inquisition, I was like, "You hurt my boo. I'm gonna
Oh
rip your
wow.
throat out."
Okay, so then we got to
she's a
rescue. We got to
coward.
rescue our man's. We got
Gotta
to get
heal
him.
his heart.
Got to heal his heart. Yeah, I was expecting he was going to be a romance option because he popped up again in Dragon Age Inquisition, but
Mhm.
we live in a cruel world, and that's just not how it worked out. So I will not rest until I get my Varric romance. That's all.
Fair.
All right, on to you,
Eric.
Eric. I think. Yeah.
All right, lightning round pitch. Stick with me here.
Okay.
We're gonna mix Divinity Dragon Commander with the Hyrule Warriors Age of Cataclysm or Age of Calamity. I always call it the wrong name. Where basically you are playing the Grey Wardens trying to hold out against an incoming Darkspawn invasion, and you have to manage all the diplomacy and alliances and stuff, and then hold the battles. Now, the first time you run this, you're not going to do well, but guess what? It's also a roguelite, so you're going to start the new loop over
Oh,
with
jeez.
knowledge of how all these
Wild
different
ride.
alliances work and who these people are. You're going to have to get to know them and how to manipulate them, and eventually, through enough loops and through enough practice, you will be able to beat the Darkspawn horde while also discovering why time is looping in the first place. That's my pitch. BioWare, it's open, it's free, you take it.
Incredible. Wow.
Oh my.
So this is just a thing.
Love it.
I have a show called Dream Games that's just not been kind of, we haven't really launched it yet, but Eric, you are officially a guest, whether you like it or not, because I need more discussion of this topic and all the other ones here. No, that awesome. So yeah, that covers our Dragon Age discussion. So we're gonna do some Q&A stuff from we got in the chat, and we're gonna try to get through these ones a little bit quicker as well. So because we're running up against the clock. So specifically, as it's just Dragon Age specific here, what is the choice you regret making the most? And I'll just, much like the previous Q&A, jump in if you got one.
That time when
personally-
Yennefer. No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to think.
The asshole Inquisitor playthrough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was hard. Like Dorian calling you cancer and Cassandra literally having to drink herself into oblivion to even look you in the eye is heartbreaking.
That's okay.
I
Yeah.
felt very dirty after play.
Ouch.
I immediately
Yeah.
played another
Yeah.
one.
Ugh.
You do get to punch Solus though, so
I was gonna say
Right side.
letting Solus live. Does that count?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
not punching Solus in my first playthrough.
Yeah.
When I realized I could, I'm like, let me reload.
I
Let me go back.
I have never made the choice, but the choice to have Iron Bull forsake the Chargers.
it's
What that leads to in
hard.
Trespasser. I know what happens. I have not done it,
Ouch.
but I regret
Yeah.
that choice future.
Have
Like-
him romance. I did this for my asshole Inquisitor playthrough. I'm telling you, this was the worst experience of my life. Make that choice, but make it to where Dorian and Iron Bull are in a romance, and then make sure Dorian's on your party in Trespasser. You will have your
Liana,
heart
Jesus
ripped
Christ.
out of your
You're like
Oh.
organizing
It's so
the most
You, like-
pain possible.
Yeah.
He like literally like you could hear Dorian like trying not to cry, and he was like, I should have
Oh.
known everyone betrays me in the end. And it's just like
Damn.
it's
I'm out.
Wow. Yeah. Do you have like a chart that you just kind of were like, oh, I think most pain like possible in this
Yes.
if I make
Yes.
these
like
choices?
masochistic or something. Like I think I need to like look inside myself for a little bit and reflect because there's something weird there.
All right.
Anyway,
Sometimes you got to
carry
experience
on.
the angst. Oh, also romancing Blackwall. Big
Oh.
mistake. Big
Ooh,
fucking mistake.
I've never heard
yeah.
good things
Waste
about
of
that one.
Boo!
character.
Big mistake.
Boo! Yeah.
I know.
could've
I was
told
kind of
you
like,
that
I was
when
kind of like,
met Blackwall.
I know, but I was kind of like, seems could
He
be
seems
interesting.
dark and broody. He could
Yes,
be.
could be interesting. And I was just like, wow, I'm gonna let this dude rot in jail. Like, what's
I
going
think
on here?
I think mine was how I had Cole turn out in the end.
Oh,
Cole was
Yeah.
I don't know, because it was like, well, you seem like you're happy this way, but like I don't want to change you to make you seem like you'll be happier another way. It was like, oh yeah, a lot of choices there, but I was like, I didn't know which one to pick, and I still felt weird after I made my decision.
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel. I yeah. That's. I'm just really sad thinking about.
Yeah.
I'm just really sad thinking about the Iron Baldorian stuff now.
It's
Oh,
sad. It's
God.
really sad. Oh my
But
god.
okay, let's see. Next one here. We're gonna go slightly longer, just to see if we can get another one or maybe two of these. What is something in the Dragon Age lore, maybe something we know tangentially about that you just want to know more about? Like either we know a little bit about, or maybe we just know absolutely nothing about that you would like to hear more about. The gimme is Ancient Elves.
Let's
I feel
plug.
like, but for me, I've already said it. Really, I just want to see more of Tevinter. I want to see more of their society and how they view their society from the inside at this point, and I want to just see how they, people from there, because we've seen a lot of the external stuff. So I just want to really see the internal aspects, much like I wanted to see the internal stuff of Orlais after being, someone from Ferelden, painting them constantly as these arch villains. I enjoyed seeing them from the inside, so I want to see Tevinter from the same light.
That's my answer too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyone
Gotta
else?
read the comics, man.
I mean,
I
I
just
know, Leon. I know.
Oh,
for me,
you
it's
guys are
just
I'm
killing me.
working
the
on
the
it.
fade. The fade is so
Fade,
weird
yeah.
and just everywhere and creepy, and I'm like, I want to know more about that.
I just want to have a
Yeah.
sit down conversation with a demon in the fade and just like,
Not
so what makes you
necessarily,
tick?
but like I can watch somebody else do it, and I'm like, oh wow,
Oh,
that's really
learn.
interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
interview
more
with
about
a
the drones.
interview with a rage demon.
I,
No, that's just a family get together. Anyways, Eric, what about yours?
I'd like to learn more about the dwarves. I feel like we haven't spent a lot of time
Yeah.
in like
Mhm.
the length of Dragon Age with dwarves. Like we had the Orzammar section, and that was really about it. And
Mhm.
I think about like all the different like places we're going or will probably go and stuff, and I would like to know more about, especially ancient dwarves, sure, and the ones that build the roads and all that, but also like even modern day, like how they survive and get by. We don't get a lot of insight into those characters outside of the few NPCs we have, and even
Yeah.
they tend to kind of be outliers to the norm. So yeah, I just would love to know more about that stuff. It's
Yeah,
also more
they
there,
got
so.
secrets. Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think they're a cool concept and a cool way of interpreting that, like stereotypical fantasy race of, all the races in Dragon Age are kind of like twisted different versions of what you would normally expect. And so having, dwarves be dealing with what they've been dealing with, I would love to see like what that looks like going into the next game, especially.
Mhm.
Even though it will probably be a lot more about elves and stuff.
Most likely, but no, dwarf lore I think would be the coolest. You're right.
Give me an
Pivoting off of that
Orzammar
is
game.
yeah, pivoting off of that, actually some kind of royal line of Orzammar thing, which I guess kind of goes with that whole Crusader Kings idea, but the same thing, like
Yeah.
something exploring the line of kings in Orzammar would be actually really cool.
Mhm.
But for me, I was thinking like, dwarves, but then also like the pivot off of that is Darkspawn. We kind of talked about how we don't, we know a lot about Darkspawn, but we also don't. The game's kind of pushed away. Awakening gave us so many details about the hierarchy of Darkspawn, and then Corypheus stuff gives us a lot there as well. But I just feel like there's more to learn, so much more to learn about the Darkspawn as whatever they are, effectively.
They kind of tee it up like they're going to go in a certain direction with Awakening and all that, and then I feel like Darkspawn kind of gets sidelined by the time Inquisition comes around, where it's just like, by the time they were talking about Darkspawn Inquisition, I was like, oh right, that's a thing. Like I keep forgetting that like exists in the Dragon Age world as like a threat at this point. But yeah, I guess that is a problem we probably need to deal with at some point.
They're like a temporary problem though. Like the whole lore is set up that once the Grey Wardens like come and then they disappear and their job's done, and technically the blight ended. So and then we had like the random pools of them in Inquisition. That was so annoying, having to plug up the holes, and they just kept coming like, dude.
Yeah.
But they had the whole thing of like, oh, they're starting to gain sentience, they're starting to gain independence, they're creating factions among themselves, and I was like, okay, this is getting really interesting. And then they were just like, peace, bye.
Yeah. It was getting very
they're organizing,
like, and I was like, oh yeah, and then nope.
They're organizing for Dragon Age 4.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I would love to. I would love to see more of that. I actually have a second answer I just thought of. The book Dragon Age Last Flight.
My God, it's so good.
I want to see more of where the Grey Warden story goes after that, because we don't get really, I really thought Inquisition was going to give us a lot of that, and Inquisition doesn't really play off that book almost at all. And I really want to see more of where that particular story takes us, which I'm hoping going up to Tevinter that we're going to kind of get into the Grey Warden stuff in the mountains. We, as Liana pointed out, yelling at a creative director, we've seen the Grey Warden crest, and we've seen a Grey Warden crest that appears to have, a king, a crown on it, which implies a whole set of circumstances. So I'm hoping we get more Grey Warden-y kind of stuff. But Grey Warden and Darkspawn and Blights were this huge thing in Origins that pivoted, that really was a huge part of Awakening as well. And obviously it's where Dragon Age 2 starts. And then that's pretty much it. Corypheus, deals obviously in that a lot, but we don't get much of that after that, which would seem was going to be the overarching thing. So I really hope 4 going to Tevinter gives us some really good looks at the Darkspawn and the Grey Wardens.
We know we're going to Tevinter. We know we're going to Antiva. We know we're going to Navarra.
I didn't know Antiva. I knew Navarra.
Those 3 have been confirmed. And I'm telling you, trying to see what I can say.
Liana's
I'm listening.
Liana's opening the different filing cabinets. Okay, which is super secret, and which
Forbidden
is I lose my job
is
secret.
allowed to be unrolled here. Yeah.
I will say there are a few stories in the anthology that will directly impact Dragon Age 4.
I'll finish it, Liana. Okay.
Okay.
And one of them does concern Dorian, and that ties into his appearance in the comics, because Dorian and the Chargers show up in the comics too. But I definitely read, anybody watching, definitely read anthology. For me, honestly, because I really one of my favorite things about especially the newer comics like Blue Wraith and Mage Killer is you're seeing the other side of Tevinter. You're seeing the poor. Like we're only hearing the Magisters and the Blood Mages and the elite, or we see the slaves with Fenris. We don't really see that latent Soparati class in between. And when you see like Tess and them, you get to see that other side. You get to see that spectrum. And it's so fascinating to me. And while we got a lot of that in the comics, I would like to see more of that in the books and in the game. But I really also want to see more of Antiva, because that's another big spectrum. We see the House of Repose and the Monteliers, and then we also see Zephyrin talking about being sold into slavery, into a brothel and sex work at a really young age. And And then you also hear the stories from Isabella of where they're dancing on the beach without a care in the world, basically a bunch of stoners just enjoying life. And there's just so many facets that don't seem to really, it kind of reminds me of New Orleans. So I'm from New Orleans, and one thing I always love about it is we don't care about anything. I literally worked for a boss that I found out later was a serial killer. We don't give a shit. You'll see a Satanist and then a tarot reader and a Christian and everybody in their corners, and then go back an hour later and they're all sitting at the same coffee table, enjoying, cutting up, sharing stories. Like there's a blend of cultures that overlap in a healthy way. And I feel like that would be in Tiva despite all the dark issues. And I want to see that play out. I want to explore and talk to those people and learn about their way of life.
I agree, but also I have questions for you after.
I just took New Orleans off the list.
Yeah.
Well, that was very in-depth information.
That's funny. Ray's
like
taking New Orleans off the list.
Yeah.
I'm putting New Orleans on like higher on my
care
list.
about one of those.
Yeah, my boss was a serial killer, but anyway.
It was whatever, you know.
But you have far more serial killers just walking among you than I thought. No, thank you.
Oh yeah, I used to
Yeah,
sleep on his
God.
couch, but luckily I'm a girl. Apparently his victims were all just little boys. I was sleeping above them. And they were in his basement.
So let's
was, like,
move on
20.
from here because it's
Dragon Age, baby.
Wow. All right.
this. I want to hear more, but it's not the time.
I do, but I don't. But I do.
Well, speaking of that, our last question, our last Q&A question is about morality.
Oh, great.
Great hard pivot. So, how do you compare personally? Let's try to lightning round this one as well. How do you compare the morality systems in Dragon Age to Mass Effect? And do you prefer one or the other? And you have to also consider the fact that the morality systems across all three Dragon Ages are very different experiences. Because Dragon Age Origins really has more of a how other people see you, how your companions see you system. 2 has effectively has the Mass Effect system more or less, where you have rival versus friend, and which you can really just max those out kind of similarly to an extent. And then Inquisition is really again just how people view you and how the story changes versus the Mass Effect trilogy, which is Paragon versus Renegade.
I like Paragade.
I'm gonna push back on something
Renegade.
you just said, because I think 2 is not anything like Mass Effect.
It was the closest attempt, is what I mean.
Well, in terms of like the meter, but I think yeah, I'll let
it's
Eric
on-
take this one, but I think I
it's on
agree
a
with you,
character
Eric.
perspective basis, whereas like Mass Effect was kind of like, here's Paragon Renegade, and it's how everyone is going to view you. It was very like universe facing you. And like a response to the things you were doing, whereas like the friendship and rivalry was very much about like how you interact with individual characters, because you could be a good person and then also be rival-mancing Meryl for the spicy romance, and that's, you could just be that person if you wanted to, and that could be the relationship you have with that person. And I think that's kind of interesting. And I think I will say it straight up, I like Dragon Age's morality way more than I like Mass Effect's, because
Agree.
like Mass Effect again, I think draws in on the self a lot and is about like how you want to shape your shepherd and be your shepherd. But Mass Effect is that one, but Dragon Age is like how you want to present out to the world and interact with people, and how you frame different interactions with different people. I mean, this is the series where in Mass Effect everybody's like oorah on board with Shepard, like let's all go and fight together. Whereas like Dragon Age, you can kill your party members if you disagree with them and stuff. So I think that is way more interesting to me.
Agree. It's a lot more nuanced.
I feel like you have a lot more choice in Dragon Age.
Yes, definitely. You had to be more strategic too, because like there were some missions where I'm like, I'm definitely going to leave Anders at home, or like I'm going to leave Fenris at home, because like this is just going to piss them off.
Doing some Templar stuff, might want to leave Anders
like,
at home for this one.
I'll catch that later. But yeah, because like in Mass Effect, it's basically like, hey, do you want to do like the good thing, or do you want to like shoot someone in the face for like looking at you wrong? Like it was like almost like you had to be cartoonishly evil to like do anything that was like immoral.
It was so inconsistent too. Story. Like,
speaking of Bethany, oh no.
But no, but like you're right. That's kind of like Mass Effect was quite literally like black and white, and as Leona said, completely inconsistent on what really qualified sometimes this stuff. Dragon Age, how you just have like just back on the rival mancing thing that Eric said. The cool thing by Dragon Age, I think a lot of people didn't realize, was the fact that you could romance people who you had a rivalry with. You didn't have to be friends with them, and it created some really cool
Eric's
stories.
like, oh yeah,
yeah, you could.
but that's the thing, a lot of people didn't realize about that. So just with the the morality system within individuals, but it's tying back into the very beginning conversation, what I love about the high fantasy stuff is the fact that you can just kill a party member and it makes sense within stuff, because it's high fantasy. They were a traitor, they betrayed my values, so off with their head kind of mentality, versus Mass Effect where it's, well, I'm space cops, so that doesn't even as a bad guy, I'm not going to just shoot a disagreeable party member in the face necessarily, because
Shepard's a Green Lantern.
Like you get to do that with Rex in the beginning, but that's about
it. But that's the thing, is like that's pretty much one of the only cases of that really in the series where you just outright do
Mass
that.
Effect 1 is a good video game.
Yeah. So that was a conversation there about all that. So at that point, we're we went a little long on this, but Dragon Age is worth it, people.
Dragon Age good.
Dragon Age is a good old time. So thank you all for joining us this evening for this look at both high fantasy gaming as well as the Dragon Age series. If, as far as I go, if you want to hear more about my thoughts on Dragon Age, Mass Effect, or gaming as a whole, Hearts Beyond, all that, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Bear Punch. And let's just go through, do your plugs, people. Eric, start with you and we'll make our way through.
You can find me on Twitter at CMoosey. I'm also writing over at Destructoid. You can find all my day work articles over there. And then every other week we are doing Normandy FM, which is a retrospective podcast that started with Mass Effect and Dragon Age, went on to Jade Empire and The Last of Us, and now we are currently on Final Fantasy X, which is a whole journey and a lot of fun. So
it's a good show. I've been on it.
I think we're recording Besaid tomorrow. I'm very excited about that and grappling with all the many things that Waka is.
Kelsey.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at KDLunas. I don't really have too much to plug this time, but definitely watch that space in the next couple of weeks for a really exciting announcement. We'll let y'all know.
Liana.
Twitter, DIRTYEFFINPHIPPY. Just because the spelling's on weird here, and in case that person's like, who the heck is tagging me?
It looks like it was fixed.
And
alive.
Yeah, and YouTube at Leanna Rupert Official, because somebody stole my original name, jerks, and Game Informer.
Good stuff. Ray.
Oh, well, you can find me everywhere on the internet as Ray Apollo. That's RAYAPOLLO. It's not Apoyo, it's Apollo. That's my name. I'm also one of the hosts for the Humble Game Show. So tomorrow I'm actually playing Dodgeball Academia on stream over there, and it's going to be a cool time. So come hang out. And yeah, I mean, just if you like dank memes and anime, follow me on Twitter.
Well, yeah, make sure to follow everyone. I would also say, if you like the Mass Effect side of the BioWare spectrum of gaming, I do have the Massively Affected podcast currently in between seasons. The first season is entirely available right, on Butwhytho's website, butwhytho.com. And yeah, butwhythopodcast.com, I believe. Got that wrong. Fixed it. Anyways, so you can find all that there. Season 2 will be coming at some point, looking to do some interesting stuff. And I want to do some Dragon Age conversations for that show's format as well. So look for more Massively Affected down the line. But as far as But Why Though goes, make sure, please, that you tune in Sunday at 6 p.m. Central for our Twitch watch party of Evangelion. I can't say it. My brain. Evangelion Thrice Upon a Time, sponsored by Amazon Prime Video. I'm doing my best, people, with this.
You're doing great.
Seriously, everyone who joined us live tonight, thank you so much. This has been a blast getting to talk about all of this with these wonderful people. Give everyone a follow on whatever your preferred social platforms are, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Rusegate.
Love you, right?